Is Mark Cuban the bright billionaire that most people think that he is, or is he somebody who just got extremely lucky? Well, I'm going to let you decide in this video. Recently, a friend of mine shared this video with me, and it's an interview of Mark Cuban by Patrick Bet-David, talking about the #1 reason that entrepreneurs fail. These are smart, rich folks, and I'm not necessarily in the habit of disagreeing with smart, rich folks. However, after reviewing the video, I did have some criticisms about some of the thoughts that were shared in the video, and I'm going to let you decide for yourself whether or not you agree. Let's dive in.
Joining us is my man, Keala Kanae.
Obviously, he's an expert at what he does.
What would you say is the #1 reason why people fail? Not necessarily why they make it, the complete opposite.
Right, lack of brains, lack of effort.
Lack of brains, lack of effort.
Yeah, they don't do the work.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit hesitant to agree that IQ is attached to your ability to possibly succeed. There's several different, measurements of intelligence. Somebody might not necessarily be the most mathematically intelligent, but they can be a genius when it comes to relationships or a genius when it comes to networking. IQ tends to have this very objective way of trying to measure somebody, but life is very subjective. I don't necessarily agree entirely that brains are responsible for whether or not somebody is going to succeed as an entrepreneur.
When you start a business and you start to talk about somebody, you're never in a vacuum with no competition, unless you're just extremely lucky. And if there's going to be competition, that means somebody else knows your business as well as you do when you get started. And if you walk into a competitive environment and they still know more about the business than you do and more about your customers, you're going to lose.
I did at one point attend an event with Keith Cunningham, who is the rich dad from the very popular book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he likes to say that business is an intellectual sport. And I would agree with that as well. So I think it really depends on, how high up the ladder do you want to climb? What level of success are you trying to achieve? Because I have friends right now that are making about $250,000 to about $500,000 a year that I wouldn't necessarily call extremely bright. I don't necessarily think that they are the most intelligent folks. They're definitely not more intelligent than some of the people that are out there making less money than them. They just happen to be in, a better vehicle. So we should also consider that. What vehicle are you in? Because different vehicles are going to offer a different level of opportunity.
But most people don't consider that. They don't do the work. They don't learn more about their industry. They don't know even about their business. And so you've got to put in the effort to know more about your industry than anybody else.
By and large, though, I would say that if you want to become one of the best in the industry, if you want to achieve the billions that Mark Cuban has gone out and achieved, and the tens of millions or whatever it is that Patrick Bet-David has gone out and achieved, well, then I would agree that at some point, brains is going to enter into the equation. How eager and willing are you to learn? How eager and willing are you to compete? How eager and willing are you to, take chances, take risks, and kind of push the threshold so that you can outpace or outsmart your competitors?
And that's the brains part, and that's the effort part as well. Because look, if you're competing with me, you better know what you're doing, otherwise I'm going to kick your ass, and you're not going to outwork me. And so, the combination is usually what kills businesses early on more than anything. It's understanding what your skill set is, finding the right place to use those skills, and then going for it. Will that make you 250 grand? It depends if you pick the right industry. But whatever industry you pick, if you outwork everybody, if you try to be a little smarter than everybody, you've got your best chance. Because if you don't do it and somebody else does, I have the saying, work like someone's trying to take it all away from you.
Work like somebody's trying to take it all away from you. I would venture to say that that's not necessarily the most pleasant thought. Back when I was first launching my primary business today, when we were going from 0 to almost 20 million in revenue in our first year, in that year, I hired my first business coach. And in one of our first sessions, she said to me, Keala, business is war. And the sooner that you accept that, the better off that you're going to be. Now, at the time, I was very optimistic. I prided myself on how optimistic I was. And I thought to myself, I don't really want to believe that because I don't want that to become my experience. Overall, though, I would say through the years, I definitely agree that business is war. And war is dangerous, war is competitive, and sometimes people die in war. And when I say people die in business, that looks like, people that have to get fired, people that might need to be let go, putting your competition out of business if that's what it takes to succeed. Make no mistake, it is a competition wherein the best survive and thrive. Now, as I said earlier, though, that can be mitigated by how high up the chain do you want to climb. If you want to become the best of the best of the best of the best in your industry, then yeah, business is going to seem like war. If you want to just go out there and make, 6 figures or maybe multiple 6 figures in an industry that's pretty wide, you're probably going to deal with less competition because, let's face it, you're not trying to climb all the way up to the pinnacle of your industry. So it really depends. As for me, my thought process is, why participate in something if I'm not committed to being the best at it?
Let's transition to a different subject with college. You went to IU,
Yep.
right? Now you got a lot of people that say, forget about school, drop out of school.
They're idiots.
So you think they're idiots.
idiots.
Tell me why.
If you're going to have and run a business, if you don't understand accounting, you're already behind the 8 ball.
Can't you hire a guy that knows how to
But
run
then
accounting?
they still have to communicate to you. Your accountant might tell you you're profitable, but your cash is going down. Not understanding a breakdown. And when you don't,
Do you think you need college to learn that?
yeah, I think you do, right? Because it may not, for some people, look, if you're so self-motivated that you can take an online course in accounting and teach yourself everything, you're way ahead of the game anyways. But most people aren't. I don't care if you go to a community college and take accounting and spend $99 for the class. Just, spending the money forces you to be more obligated to do it.
Yeah, so Mark is sharing quite a bit of his thoughts here on the topic of college, and I want to take a moment to comment on this. Basically what he's saying is that he believes everybody should go to college, even if nothing more than to just learn accounting. Now, his opinion is probably going to be a bit biased because his background is in accounting. And so we tend to be biased and think that the way that we did it is the way that everybody should do it. As an example, in the video, he says to a lesser extent marketing, as if marketing is less important than accounting. Now, my background is in marketing, so of course I think, marketing is way more important than accounting. The ability to acquire customers gives somebody, some beans to actually count, right? Some cheddar to actually stack up. So, I'm gonna have a different opinion. I'm hesitant overall to agree that everybody should go to college in order to learn some of these components of running a business. I don't think that that's the only way to do it. Now, I will agree though that when my business first started taking off, I had a lot of challenges understanding the accounting and finance portion of the business. Eventually, I had a CFO who blew through all of the cash. At one point, we were doing $1.8 million a month in revenue, and we were losing money. And he was able to speak over my head at times and convince me that there was nothing to worry about. Eventually, I got rid of that guy and brought in a new team. And over time, I learned how to become proficient at understanding a balance sheet and a P&L statement and speak the language of accounting by hiring the right people around me and learning from them and having them teach me how to understand all of this, because all of a sudden it became massively more important for me to comprehend. Now, I didn't have to go to college in order to learn all of that. May I have possibly saved myself from some of the financial challenges that we went through as a business? Well, maybe, but if I had it to do over again, I would want to do it the exact same way because I learned so much from those experiences that it had made me a much stronger, more confident, more certain, more clear entrepreneur and CEO today. I don't think that everybody has to go to college in order to succeed as an entrepreneur, which is kind of what Mark sounds like he is saying, is that everybody should go to college, if nothing less than to learn accounting. But I do think that you can absolutely hire smart, talented people around you, because otherwise, where would we draw the line? Does that then mean that you should also then study marketing, study sales, study legal as well, and represent yourself? Like, where do you draw the line? At some point, you've got to hone in on the area that's going to be your specialty and then hire and delegate out to smart people that you surround yourself with and let them carry the ball where you might be weak.
The thing I learned at Indiana that was more important than anything else, I learned how to learn. And learning became far more important to me because the one certainty in business is that it's always going to be changing.
Now, I would agree with that part. I did go to college. I did get a college degree, a bachelor's degree in psychology. And one thing that I would say is that college did help me learn how to learn. And because in college, I was able to choose the topics that I wanted to learn about based on what I was genuinely interested in, I actually realized that I didn't hate learning as much as I thought I did. In high school, elementary school, middle school, kind of everything is just kind of crammed down our throat and we're told what we're supposed to like, what we need to learn, what we need to read, these sorts of things. And I think that a lot of us then leave school and think, my God, I hate learning. I'm so glad that that's finally over. But when I got into college and I could choose what I wanted to learn, I learned the value of learning. And I would agree that learners are leaders. There's a quote that's one of my favorites, and it goes something to the effect of, it's the learners who shall inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves perfectly adapted for a world that no longer exists. Now, do you have to go to college in order to have a high value on learning? I don't necessarily think that's the case.
The greatest source of your paranoia should be knowledge. If someone else knows more than you do, and if you're not learning, if you don't know how to learn, if you don't have a thirst for learning and acquiring information, you're SOL.
So do you think, like, let's just say if we put 10 guys here, you interview them, okay? You could within a 5-10 minute interview say, this dude's not gonna make it as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, I can typically tell, right? I can tell but by their passion, I can tell by their focus, I can tell by their preparation. People like to say, you know, the only stupid questions are the ones you don't ask, and that's not right? Because the questions you ask tell whoever more about you than anything else you do. Because in particular, it tells me about your preparation. If you ask me questions about just basic things that you should have known and you should have down to a science, that's going to disqualify you almost more than anything.
Now, generally speaking, I would say that I don't necessarily want to, make too many decisions or too many judgments about somebody's potential based on where they're at today. Because, I mean, you're talking to a guy here who just a decade ago was working in a coffee shop for minimum wage. And now today, I've gone on to become a multi-millionaire. So I do think that people have the potential to change their life at any given moment in time, the moment that they make the decision to commit to a new life. At the same time, I do agree with part of what Mark is saying in that in his interview process, by asking questions and really by seeing what questions people ask him, he can typically tell whether or not they are going to be cut out for success. When I got my start in business, I didn't have a mentor that was going to be there in my back pocket, looking over my shoulder to answer every single question that I had. Neither did I even want that, because that would make me dependent on somebody else for my success. So I had to be eager and willing to learn and willing to go out and find answers to my own questions. And only when I ran into a complete roadblock where I had nowhere else to turn did I go and ask my mentors for help. And you know what? I got their help because they saw that eagerness and that willingness to learn inside of me. They saw that I was going out and trying to solve my own problems, and they saw that I was taking what they were teaching me and going out and executing it. So if you're not enough of a self-starter, you're not willing to go out and solve your own problems first and try to look for the answers, and you're hoping that somebody is going to come along and save you, or somebody is going to come along and show you what to do, well, yeah, your odds of success at that moment in time are probably pretty limited.
There needs to be a healthy level of paranoia.
Oh, absolutely.
There needs to be.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I always say, for every one of my businesses, I say, what would I do to kick my own ass? You're right. So whatever business you have, there's somebody trying to put you out of business. There's somebody trying to take a bite out of your business. And it's better for you to figure out how they're going to do it rather than they do it. And so, yeah, that's being paranoid. And so you have to be paranoid. You have to anticipate other people's next moves, and you can't ever, downplay the competition.
I love what Mark says here, that you can't ever downplay the competition. Again, I'm going to go back to what I originally stated, in that this really depends on how high do you want to climb in your industry. But if you are one of those people that's really wanting to achieve and be one of the best in the world at what you do, then yeah, you've got to acknowledge that there's competition. There's a lot of this kind of like happy-go-lucky, let's all hold hands and sing kumbaya business advice out there that wants to pretend that, oh no, I have no competition. Well, let me ask you a very simple question. If there was nobody else in the entire world that offered your products or services or could solve your customers' problems, if there was nobody else in the world that could do it, would you be making more money today? And if the answer is yes, well, then you have competition, and you're better off just acknowledging that and being aware that there is somebody else out there that is trying to outgrow, outpace, outsmart, and out-earn you in the marketplace. The sooner you acknowledge that, the better prepared you're going to be for the day that inevitably comes, and the more likely you are to win in the long run. So listen, I hope you got value out of this video, my friend, and I do want to take a moment to just acknowledge the fact that I am providing commentary on a piece of content that has two people in it who have a significantly higher net worth than I currently do. And so some of what I'm saying here might be limited by my own ignorance, and I just want to be transparent with you and acknowledge that fact. If you like content like this, though, that can help you create more success in your life and your business, then make sure you take a moment to subscribe and hit that little bell notification so you get notified every week when I drop more content on these topics. By the way, in case you've never met before, my name is Keala Kanae. I'm an entrepreneur that went from working in a coffee shop like this just a few short years ago to now launching and owning multiple 7- and 8-figure businesses. And I say that only so that you know that everything that I share on my channel comes from the real world knowledge of things I've learned and applied that have helped me create those results. And I share it here in hopes that it helps you create those same results as well. So make sure you subscribe, hit that little bell notification, and watch this next video in the lineup where I'm going to share with you more business building secrets.